Familiar, you're familiar. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Okay students, welcome back to this video. So in this part of the video 3, so I am going to explain you the origin of X-rays. Okay, as I told in the previous video, so we can classify the X-rays as characteristic X-rays and continuous X-rays, isn't it, based on their quality, right? Quality in the sense it may be having different frequency, different wavelength or different penetration power, right? So now how to produce particularly these two types of X-rays? Okay, based on the mechanism also I said they can be classified as these two types, right? Now what is that mechanism? Okay, so in the principle of production of X-rays itself, so we have studied that X-rays are produced due to the interaction between the accelerated electrons with the atomic electrons or interaction between the accelerated electrons and the nuclei of the target, isn't it? So now that is very important here. Okay, because the first one, that is characteristic X-rays, you know. So these particular characteristic X-rays are produced only when there is interaction between the accelerated electrons takes place with the atomic electrons. That is called atomic electrons. Interaction between electrons and atomic electrons is the main concept here. Okay, see, this is the particular atom present in the target. So atom present in the target is taken here. Okay, so structure of atom consisting of nucleus and electrons in the various orbits revolving around the nucleus, correct? Okay, now this is the path indicating the electrons which is accelerated, emitted from the filament, okay, filament in the Coolidge tube, and accelerated due to the high potential difference between the cathode and anode. Okay, when the electron is moving towards the anode with high velocity, okay, it has certain high energy. Okay, so that energy is going to be interacted with the electron present in the target atom. Okay, now let us consider this atomic structure consisting of various shells, like this is the particular shell called K, then L shell, then M shell, isn't it? K shell, L shell, M shell, etc. So now the incident accelerated electron is going to be interact with which particular electron, that you have to see. Okay, now in this diagram it is interacting with an electron in the K shell. Okay, how it is interacting, you know, the electron is going to be transfer its energy. Okay, the accelerated electron is going to be transfer its energy to the electron present in the atom. Okay, in such a way that the electron present in the orbit is going to be knocked out of this orbit, like this. Okay, almost it is removed from the atom. Knocked off means it is eliminated from the particular orbit. Okay, so here a vacancy is created now. A vacancy is created in the particular orbit where the electron is knocked off, right? So that vacancy must be filled immediately. How it is possible? So that is the mechanism here. Okay, immediately the electron present in the L shell. Okay, so whatever the energy lost by this electron due to the transmission, so that energy must be same with the electron present in the L shell. Okay, immediately that electron present in the L shell is going to be occupy that vacancy, right, by losing the energy. It is not just by undergoing downward transition. The electron initially present in the L shell, you know, that is with high energy. So that energy is going to be lost and then losing this energy coming back to the K shell. Okay, so that loss of energy of the electron in the L shell when it is undergoing downward transition to the K shell is emitting a particular photon. Okay, that means loss of the electron present in the L shell is emitted in the form of photon here. Okay, so that the electron is undergoing downward transition here, right? So that loss of energy is emitted in the form of a photon. So that photon is said to be X-ray. Okay, so similarly, suppose if the interaction takes place between the incident electron with an electron present in any of the electron in the L shell, so that electron is knocked out of from this L shell, so that a vacancy created in the L shell, that vacancy is filled by any electron in the higher orbits, that is from M shell to L shell, then also there is a loss of energy, right? That loss of energy is again emitted in the form of photon and gives the X-rays. So such X-rays are produced continuously, okay, during the interaction between the excited electron and the atomic electrons, right? So those particular X-rays are said to be characteristic X-rays here, okay, because that X-rays depending upon the characteristic property of the material in which these atoms are present, isn't it? So that is why they are called characteristic X-rays. So combining all such X-rays, you can have a spectrum, okay, that is called characteristic X-ray spectrum, okay. So they are called consisting of characteristic spectral lines. So we can name them characteristic spectral lines also. How? So depending upon from which particular shell the electron is knocked off. Based on that, we have three different possible spectral lines here, okay. So they are called K lines or K series, K lines, L lines, M lines. What do you mean by that? If the loss of, jumping of the electron takes place from the K shell, so then we call it as K lines, okay. Again we have three types in that: K alpha, K beta, K gamma, okay. So these three types of lines, spectral lines, depending upon transition from which orbit to K shell. So similarly, in case of L lines, we have L alpha, L beta, L gamma. M lines also we have M alpha, M beta, M gamma, okay. You just look at this diagram so that you will understand better. So this is the K shell for you, right? Okay, so this is the innermost orbit, K shell. Now due to the knockoff of the electron, due to the interaction, the electron is jumped out, okay. So this vacancy is filled by an electron transition from L shell to K shell, okay. See, this is the upper shell, L shell to K shell. So this downward transition gives the spectral line called K alpha. Similarly, if the transition from M shell to K alpha, then gives K beta. Similarly, N to K, so that is called K gamma, okay, K alpha, K beta, K gamma. So depending upon L to K, M to K, or isn't it? So N to K. So like that we have three possible lines, okay. They are called K series lines, or K lines simply, okay. Similarly for L series also, okay, L lines. So you have L alpha, L beta, L gamma, depending upon three possible transitions up to L shell only. Similarly, if the transition is up to M shell from any of the higher shells, they are called M lines, okay. So these are the particular spectral lines obtained and gives the X-rays called characteristic X-rays here. Clear? So the mechanism of production of the characteristic X-rays is due to the interaction between, as I said, excited electron with the atomic electrons present in the target. Is it clear? Okay. Now let us consider the second type of X-rays produced in the Coolidge tube. See, this is the continuous X-ray, origin of continuous X-rays. Okay. Now consider the same type of atomic structure, atom present in the target material. Okay. So consisting of, again, there is a nucleus with various electrons in the various orbits. Okay. Now this is the accelerated electron. So moving towards a particular atom. Okay. So this accelerated electron is now not going to interact with any of the electrons present in the atom. Then what it is going to do here? It is just penetrating deeper into the atom, okay, just passing over the number of orbits, and then as it is moving nearest to the nucleus, okay, then it is going to be deviated like this. Clear? The accelerated electron is going to be deviated towards the nucleus. Why? Because nucleus is positively charged, right? So electron is negative. So as it is moving nearest to the nucleus, it cannot go just like that in the straight line path. It has to move, or it has to bend towards the nucleus and then exit away from the atom. Okay. So during this bending or during this deviation, okay, this accelerated electron is going to lose its energy. Okay, so it is just losing its energy. Why? Because whenever it is deviating, its velocity decreases. Basically, its velocity decreases. Okay, and energy equation for energy is equal to half mv square. The moving electron will have kinetic energy. So its equation is half mv square. Okay, as the velocity decreases, its corresponding kinetic energy also decreases here. Okay, so that loss of energy, where it has to go? So that loss of energy is now emitted in the form of photons. Okay, that is emitted in the form of photons of different wavelength, different frequency. Okay, that is why because of continuous loss of energy, we have continuous emission of photons like this with the photon energy h nu 1, h nu 2, h nu 3, h nu 4, etc. Okay, so with maximum possible frequency and corresponding wavelength is minimum. So there will be a cutoff for the emission of this continuous X-rays with the minimum wavelength and corresponding maximum frequency, because wavelength is inversely proportional to frequency, you know. So if the frequency is maximum, corresponding wavelength is minimum. Okay, so starting from this minimum wavelength, it can have all possible radiation with higher wavelengths. Okay, lambda minimum is the starting value, then all possible wavelengths are emitted. That is why it is called continuous. All possible wavelengths are emitted here, and hence it is called continuous X-rays produced due to the interaction between the excited electron with atomic nuclei. You have to say atomic nuclei, but not with the atomic electrons. Here it is atomic nuclei. Interaction is with the atomic nuclei. Clear? Now let us consider how to calculate this energy of the photon. Okay, I said all possible wavelengths are emitted, right? Then in that, which is the cutoff wavelength? Lambda minimum. Okay, how to calculate this lambda minimum, and on what factor this lambda minimum depends in the production of X-rays. So let us see a brief discussion on that. You look at the equations. Suppose if I consider initial kinetic energy is equal to EI with the corresponding velocity is equal to Vi, initial velocity Vi. Its energy is equal to half mv square, where m is the mass of the electron. Clear? Okay. If Vi is the initial velocity of the electron, after interaction, okay, while it is exiting, its energy decreases. That means final energy EF is decreased. Correct? Decreased with the corresponding velocity Vf. Okay, final velocity is Vf. So you have to understand that here the final energy is less than its initial energy because of loss of velocity. Okay, so Vf is the final velocity. Clear? So consider these two velocities now. What is the loss of energy? So because that loss of energy is nothing but here the photon. Okay, photon's energy is given by h nu, where nu is the frequency, right? H is the Planck's constant. So write down that. So loss of energy is equal to h nu is equal to difference of this kinetic energy. Okay, half mvi square, higher energy, minus half mvf square, lower energy. Okay, so part of the energy is lost here, not the complete energy, right? Only part of the energy is lost while it is interacting. Okay, so that difference of energy is the energy of the photon, h nu. Clear? So like that we have various photons, h nu 1, h nu 2, h nu 3, h nu 4, etc. Clear? Okay, now let us try to see how to get the minimum wavelength during this process. Okay, in the possibility of continuous emission of X-rays, lambda minimum is obtained by assuming that when the electron is completely stopped. That means you have to assume that this excited electron is going to be stopped by transferring the energy, complete energy, in the form of what? In the form of photon. Okay, so when the electron is completely stopped, so there is no velocity left with the electron. It is stopped means what? Final velocity is 0, right? So Vf equal to 0. Okay, then all the energy lost by the electron appears in the form of a single photon. Okay, that loss of energy, complete loss of energy of this excited electron is emitted in the form of a particular photon, single photon. So whose energy is now given by h nu with maximum frequency, that is. So h nu maximum. Okay, so how do you calculate that energy now? Half mvi square here half mva square minus half mvf square gives the photon energy. But now in this case, final velocity is equal to 0, right? Vf equal to 0. So therefore, you have to consider half mva square. Vf is equal to 0. Therefore, half mva square is equal to only complete photon energy h nu maximum. Okay, equation 1 we get. If the electron is accelerated through a potential of V volts, so this is possible with very high potential, I said. Okay, so with what potential the electron is accelerated from the tight tension battery, you know, in the Coolidge tube. So you have to consider that high potential. So 30 to 100 kilovolts, I said, isn't it? So that voltage is important here. So with what potential electron is accelerated through the potential V volts. So consider that. Then depending upon that, we have its kinetic energy. So that is half mvf vi square is equal to ev. So energy, kinetic energy is obtained in that way. Okay, kinetic energy of mv square is depending upon the applied potential V into E. Okay, or E into V we can say. So equation 2. Now compare these two equations here. Okay, from equations 1 and 2. Okay, so h nu maximum is equal to, okay, EV. So by comparing equation 1 and 2, you get h nu maximum is equal to E into V. Or by cross multiplication, V maximum is equal to EV by H. Right? So nu is the frequency, I said. As the frequency is maximum, corresponding wavelength is minimum, right? So, and frequency is related to the equation c by lambda, where c is the velocity of light. Okay, so you can write down c by lambda, but if frequency is maximum, write lambda is minimum, lambda minimum here. Okay, c by lambda minimum is equal to this ev by h. Okay, so therefore you can get the equation for the cutoff wavelength lambda minimum is equal to now hc divided by, okay, ev. Lambda by cross multiplication you can write hc divided by this ev in the denominator. Now hc by ev is the equation 3. And you know that h is a constant called Planck's constant. You can substitute that value. Okay, 6.6 in 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second. And c is the velocity of light, 3 in 10 to the power of 8, okay, meter per second. And E is the charge of the electron. How much it is? 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulomb. Substitute all these constants h, c, e. Okay, after simplification you will get the value called 1.24 into 10 to the power of minus 9. Okay, so 1.24 to the power of minus 9 divided by V is variable. It may be 30 to 100 kilovolts. So based on that, you can have the value of lambda minimum. Because this lambda minimum, what I can prove here is lambda minimum, that cutoff wavelength in the continuous spectrum is depending upon the applied potential V, inversely proportional to the applied potential. Okay, so we can understand that continuous X-rays wavelength, cutoff wavelength particularly depends upon the applied voltage here in this equation. Clear? Okay. Okay, now let us see how the intensity of X-rays varies with respect to the wavelength, particularly for both continuous X-rays and characteristic X-rays. Okay, see, the first figure is indicating how the intensity of X-rays varies with respect to wavelength for continuous X-rays particularly. Okay, you can see that. So for different anode potential, that means V is the anode potential between the anode and cathode, right? So if it is 20 kilovolts, so intensity is not that much, because the number of electrons accelerated from the cathode towards anode is very less, isn't it? So, and speed is also very less. So corresponding intensity is very less, but still we can observe that intensity is gradually increases from certain minimum wavelength. Okay, lambda minimum, intensity is increasing then decreasing. So as you increase the applied potential between the anode and cathode to 30 kilovolts, so the same trend, that is increasing and decreasing starting from the lambda minimum. So it continues up to 60 kilovolts also, even beyond that also. Okay, so the trend of increasing the intensity and decreasing is maintained with all anode potentials. Okay, so that is why it is called a standard characteristics for the variation of intensity versus wavelength. Okay, but now one thing you have to observe here. Okay, for all anode potentials, so the common thing is just increase of intensity and decrease of intensity, but where is the maximum intensity peak here? Okay, you can see that maximum intensity peaks are not coinciding at the same line, right? So for 20 kilovolts somewhere here, isn't it? So corresponding maximum intensity and wavelength is here. Okay, so as you increase the anode potential. So maximum intensity peaks is decreasing towards the wavelength. Okay, intensity is decreasing towards the minimum wavelength as you increase the anode potential from 20 to 30, 40, 50, 60. That is one observation here. Okay, in that characteristics. And similarly, second observation is you have to look at the lambda minimum value. Okay, so this lambda minimum. Okay, so starting point lambda minimum, lambda minimum, lambda minimum, lambda minimum. So is it again coinciding? No. Okay, that is also decreasing with the increase of anode potential. That means lambda minimum, that cutoff wavelength in the spectrum, continuous X-ray spectrum, is inversely proportional to the anode potential. Okay, so even that is what we observed even theoretically also, lambda minimum inversely proportional to V. Okay, with the constant